Hello and welcome to 10 Lessons Learned, the podcast where we talk to ordinary people doing extraordinary things to learn the lessons that shape their career, business and lives. Our goal is simple, to make the world a little wiser, lesson by lesson. I'm Jeffrey Wang. I'm thrilled to be your host for today's episode. I'm the founder of the Sydney Professional Development Forum, a basketball tragic, and a proud father of my two gorgeous boys. Now let's meet our very special guest for today, Mr. Shani Raja.
Hi, Jeff.
So Shani is a journalist for over 20 years, having worked for The Economist, The Wall Street Journal, and also Bloomberg. Now, when I met Shani, he was still working as a journalist, but through a twist of fate, he's actually gone on and changed his careers, became an instructor online to teach people how to write. And as fate would have it, he became one of the most popular from around the globe with over 1 million students worldwide. You've also coached TEDx speakers, you taught journalism at UTS, edited copies for the likes of the giant corporations like IBM, Microsoft, PwC. You've launched a podcast, The Alchemy of Writing, which explores the art of good communication with experts in writing, sales, and public speaking. Little known fact, but Shani is also working on a memoir, sharing how he healed himself from terminal cancer, which he was diagnosed with 4 years ago. That's quite a journey, Shani.
Yeah.
That's it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. Thanks, Jeff.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time because you've been a dear friend who had a profound impact on my life and how I approach and understood the art of writing communications in general. But on top of that, I just feel like you have so much depth as a human being in terms of how you approach your life, and especially with your recent struggles around your healing journey on cancer. So yeah, I'd like to explore your life lessons and hopefully we can share that around the world.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeffrey. And I have to say you are a big part of my healing journey as well, right from the very beginning, the way that you brought me in, made sure I wasn't left out and kept me active in a way that I'm really grateful for. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. It's nice to know that. So, all right. Well, as you know, 10 Lessons podcast, we jump straight into the lessons, and hopefully what we'll do is unpack some of your life stories through the lessons that you've shared.
Yeah.
Now, and you have really delivered on that. So I love the lessons that you sent me. Let's just dive straight into it then. Lesson number 1, thinking is overrated and often unnecessary.
Yeah. I think that will be surprising to a lot of people because we hear about overthinking being a problem and everyone recognizes overthinking as being a problem. But few people view thinking itself as a problem. Now, I'm not saying it's always a problem or it's necessarily a problem, but there's so much that we can accomplish without thinking. And that's what I mean by it's overrated. And sometimes it can even interfere with your ability to accomplish things. Yeah.
What do you mean by without thinking?
So I distinguish now between kind of two types of thinking. One is where you're constantly trying to figure stuff out. And that kind of thinking feels almost like pushing a boulder up a hill. It has that quality to it, where it's like a strain and a struggle. And there may be some instances where that's necessary, but we tend to do it with every aspect of our life. Figure it out. And that leads to thinking, and a trust in thinking as the way through and out of crises and problems.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that there is a more powerful intelligence, if you like, an intuitive intelligence, which guides you very well towards fulfilling whatever purpose and intention you have without the need for this excessive struggle of figuring stuff out. And what I've discovered in my own life and my experience is that it's only by dropping the active thinking, the kind of element where you're trying to figure everything out, it's only by dropping that compulsion that the natural intuitive intelligence can finally come up within you and guide you better towards the fulfillment of your desire. So it's been a big lesson for me, especially in terms of manifesting the things that you want in life.
Yeah.
So the way that's worked for me, for example, in my health, as you said, I was diagnosed 4 years ago with terminal cancer, bowel cancer, stage 4. And I went through all the operations and I had chemotherapy and all of that. And I also started my own healing journey where I just wanted to manifest my own healing. And to be able to do that effectively, it wasn't about just thinking a lot. It was about allowing the thinking to diminish and cease. And in that silence, finding a more tangible sense of intuition that then guided me towards the things I needed to do and tangibly felt I needed to do in order to heal myself. So that's how I used it in the most recent part of my life. But then when I look back, as you mentioned, I was a journalist and I decided to create online courses because I wanted to get like a passive income and start a passive income business. And I wanted to manifest that. And even there was just a clear intention, a desire to achieve this. And then I didn't know how I was going to do it at the time, but my intention was fixed and my will was there, my commitment was there. And then the opportunities started to present themselves to my intuition, which I then acted upon. And I can't prove any of this, but I can say that where I have relied more on that part of myself, I've made better and more longer lasting, powerful and rewarding decisions. And it's a question worth asking yourself, anybody who's listening, is think of all the decisions or the things you've done that have been the best for you and had the best impact on your life, and how much of that was due to figuring it out versus just knowing that this was what you needed to do. And just beginning that process, that's what meditation has often been about, is about silencing the mind, switching off the thinking so that you can access this higher intelligence. And I'm just at that place where I've felt that and I'm more trusting of that. So if you think when people are trying to deal with an issue, a problem, a crisis, they've got this choice. Either they could think it through or they can allow their intuition to guide them and feel their way through it. And whereas before I used to trust 100% in the thinking it through part of it, more and more I'm trusting in the other part of it. And it's something to experiment with.
So if we pick that apart just a little bit, I think I know what you're getting at in terms of trusting your intuition, in that there is a subconscious mind that's probably developed over millions and millions of years of evolutionary biology that you, or the sixth sense, if you will, that you have, that I suppose in a way helps you, guide you. You can even call it listening to your heart. So is it a case of trusting your intuition, or is it a case of not actively engage in the active thinking and let your subconscious do the work for you?
Without getting into whether it's subconscious or higher consciousness or whatever, because there's different ways of looking at that. But I think the two things are absolutely related. It's only by switching off the analytical side that the other side can even present itself.
Right.
Now, and it can be quite difficult. It's a journey because it's not always easy to discern whether it is intuition or not. Because sometimes you might be acting on an emotional response to something, fear-based, based on actually your thinking about it. So it takes a bit of discernment to know what is intuition, because I found in my experience, pure intuition is not attached to emotion.
So it's not impulses.
It's not the same. That's why we have to be careful. It's a bit of a tricky terrain. But as I've explored it, I found that yes, pure intuition that seems to come from higher consciousness is not what I now associate with lower consciousness. My own lower consciousness is the world of emotion and reaction and more the impulsive side of it, which isn't necessarily intuition, but it has a different quality. It's almost like a tangible sense of knowing. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I did this out of intuition," but sometimes it's when you dig a bit deeper, they did it out of fear or vanity or some other kind of ego mind type obsessive action. So we have to be careful to use this power. We have to really explore it within ourselves. And the closest I got to being able to, with the help of others, to be able to define this is in terms of this tangible quality of knowing. In other words, what you might call faith.
Yeah, faith.
As distinct from belief, because belief is I believe it, I choose to believe it, rather than not. But faith, in the way I'm using it, is more of a tangible knowledge, something that comes up as a kind of a knowing within you. And then we're faced as human beings with this thing of do we trust that? And I found that in my healing journey, especially, that was something I explored. And more in my life, I moved towards that tangible knowing as a way of guiding at the GPS that navigates my life now.
Well, that kind of makes sense. I suppose for our audience, the more layman's terms I could think of that kind of illustrates this is, I'm just thinking of Star Wars, and Luke was using the targeting computer, which is kind of like your active thinking.
Right.
And then he turned that off because he realized that wasn't going to get the job done.
Right.
And he trusted the Force, which is his intuition. Yeah. So
Yes,
that's a way of describing it.
That is a really useful way of looking at it. Yeah. It is like that. Your intuition will guide you how to stop someone attacking you, or particularly intuition I found is powerful in determining intention. Because the thinking mind is very limited. The analytical mind can only refer to the past and make a judgment and an analysis based on what we've seen before. The intuition is live action, right? And it's processing things in a way that is very powerful if we allow it to take effect. So now to return to the question of thinking. So I talked about thinking as, in one way, as we understand, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill, trying to figure stuff out. Now, the other type of thinking, it's like a stream flowing down from a mountaintop. So you may have thoughts. Say you have an intention and a desire to achieve something, better health, passive income, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But now, once that intention is set, the thoughts come in to guide you towards the fulfillment of that intention. So now we're using our mind in a different way. Instead of pushing this boulder up a hill and starting from thinking, which in my understanding now is way downstream from what you truly want. So we do it the other way around. Say the desire and the intention are the highest energetic forces of this universe, right? Once you are set in that, then you allow the thoughts that are needed to make that happen. So then it becomes like a GPS system, which says turn left here, turn like that. And now, so you're using your mind in a completely different way. Okay, so let's take a practical example. Someone thinks, okay, I want to pursue my desire, my dream job or whatever. And then you try and think up what that dream job is. Now you're not starting from your tangible desire.
That's right.
And so you're going to keep, chances are you're going to keep like finding things and being dissatisfied with them until you do that thing of just letting it go to the top of the mountain. What's my desire? And then, okay, that's what I want. And then its fulfillment almost becomes natural as the thoughts guide you as to how. And those ideas that come to you intuitively are often much better than what your limited thinking mind, which is past-based, will just throw up ideas that's what's happened before. So it actually can't imagine something completely new.
Different.
So it's a different way of doing life. And so that's why I picked that. Thinking is overrated.
So the challenge for most people, I think, will be to try and have, similar to what you said, it's more like have faith. But it's not easy. It's not as simple as saying, well, just have faith, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
How do you know, surely it's a bit of a journey to let go and trust your intuition.
Yeah, as I said, it's not that easy to just trust your intuition. I'll give you an example of how I learned this. I had a teacher when I was almost like a mentor when I was going through my healing journey. And he once told me, and he was a guy who had healed himself from paraplegia intentionally. And he told me, he said mantras can be quite good. So like a healing mantra, and just urged me to try one out. And the mantra I chose was like, I am healed. I would just repeat to myself that I am healed. And this was during the time when I really didn't think I was.
Okay.
I didn't think I was.
So it's just by telling yourself that.
But that's not enough. This is not, this is a very complex subject. There's a lot of nuances to it. But I'll just show you how it played out for me. So I went away and I said, okay, I knew that there was some power in mantras. So I just began to repeat to myself in a meditation posture, I am healed. 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 And I just started to repeat it. Now, obviously, my brain, my ego mind, and my mind is going, why are you saying this? You don't know. So it's saying, you're saying something you don't know to be true. So you start having this fight. But because I trusted the guy, I just kept going. I think, try to ignore that voice and just say, look, I'm healed. I'm healed. It doesn't matter. I'm healed. I'm healed. And still, it's so powerful. Is this that rational voice that just says, you do not know if you're healed or not. Why are you saying it? Doesn't make sense. Then to silence that part of me, I had to argue with it. And I said, listen, I'm not making a statement of fact. I am healed. I'm issuing a command. That was just to quieten that voice down. Now I could say I am healed with a bit more like without that disturbance. I am healed. It's a command. I am healed. I was just putting a present tense command. And the present tense is important too in this. So I just start to repeat that. Now, interesting thing starts to happen. As I'm repeating, I am healed, I am healed. For the first time since I was diagnosed, I just have this thought that what if I was? Like it's like a little mischievous thought because I never dared to consider that before. And I thought, what if I was like that? And then I thought, it was a fun thought to have. Wow, it was a real kind of pose. Oh, but obviously I don't know, right? Back to that doubt. And then I repeat it, I am healed, I'm healed. And after doing it a bit longer, I start to experience, how do I know I'm not? How do I know? And because now the rational mind is going, oh, but it's always giving you the negative version. Yeah. It's saying, you don't know that you are, right? Yeah, but you don't know that you're not. So that's why the mantra starts to stir the pot. It's very interesting. But you see how this pernicious thinking can derail you from your intention. Okay, I am healed, I'm healed. And now suddenly I'm doing it more and more. And then I think, okay. And the thought comes to mind, say, maybe I am. Okay, let me just enjoy this anyway. And then I started to feel that I am healed. So that kind of now moves into a different feeling. Now it becomes a tangible feeling that, wait a minute, I'm not ill, am I? I'm okay, I'm fine, I feel well. I'm not ill. My mind was saying I'm not well. It's a very interesting experiment. And then I completed that after about half an hour. And I felt better than I'd felt for 3 years, 2 years, whatever, how long this surgeries and everything was going on. And then I thought to myself, oh, wow, that was a really interesting experience. Okay. But then finally it's all over and the mind comes back and says, look, the thinking comes back and goes, yeah, okay, it felt good and everything, but you don't really know, do you? So don't get carried away. Now, this is where it got interesting. So I call up the guy the next day and I say, this is what happened. And I related that whole experience. And I said, yeah, it felt good. But in the end, I don't know. How can I possibly know? How can I possibly know? And then he leans into the Zoom camera and he says, so let me get this straight. You're telling me, Shani, that you had the tangible experience that you are actually healed. And then you doubted it. Why do you trust the doubt more than you trust the tangible feeling that you're healed? And that got me. Why do I? Wait, so am I discounting and dismissing? Again, you can keep doubting.
What is the doubt based on?
What is it based on? But is it more reliable? That's the other question.
Because to you, the healing was more real than a doubt.
But our training is to trust the doubt. Now, that's not to say, can you trust? It opens up a whole can of worms. Can you trust any tangible feeling that you have? Well, maybe. It's something worth exploring. And that's how my healing journey went, because I began to trust. And for me, it was life and death. So I couldn't mess around here. When I got diagnosed, I thought there's no chance I'm going to heal from this because the statistics are so bad. Average lifespan, 18 months of people with metastasized bowel cancer was the official statistic. And I remember signing to try and get my life insurance and all of that because it did my will. And here now I'm at a completely different place. Now, so it ties back to this question of the thinking, the doubting mind, the speculation, and all that is one pathway. But we put all our trust in. We even say critical thinking. That's the be all and end all. Yeah. Now I'm just throwing a different perspective out there that says there's something else as well. Let's not discount that. Let's explore that. And I think that understanding has yet to reach the mainstream.
Oh, 100%. The reality is that it takes humility to see that there are things that we cannot possibly fathom or comprehend with our thinking mind. For us to say that we, as thinking beings, could possibly comprehend the complexities of the universe.
There's that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's also the idea that do we really know how powerful we are in terms of our impact, our ability to intend for things to happen? And that was what I began to explore with this particular journey. And one of the first things this mentor of mine told me, because when I first went to him, said, look, I was sure I was ill. I was sure I was going to die. Even eventually, I'm fighting this losing battle here. And he just didn't see it that way at all, because he's helped lots of people. I said, look, I can see that some people get well. They tend to be the ones who believe they're going to recover, even in these kind of extreme cases of terminal illness. And the very first thing he said to me was, Shani, this is important for you to understand, very important, fundamental. There is a huge difference between belief and faith. And I remember thinking, is there? What's the difference? I thought they're interchangeable. That's how I'd been using those two words. And he said, no, they're the polar opposites. And then I was like, whoa, really? What do you mean? And this gets us towards this understanding. So belief is very disempowering. And it refers to something that's outside of you that you cannot possibly know. So if you were to say, is there a heaven, for example, most people wouldn't claim to know, to directly see it or anything like that. But they might choose to believe in it. So he would say that's a kind of belief is by its nature disempowering because it's just speculation. You don't know. But faith is something different because it is a tangible knowing. And to get to the tangible knowing, you have to let go of the belief. You have to let go of the mind that just tries to think and speculate. And that's interesting for me because it brought up this whole dimension of, isn't this what meditation or prayer even is about? Silencing the thinking mind. And what that reveals to you, if you have that kind of understanding of where this is going, you're not just being silent. You're opening up a whole new dimension of yourself that can lead to all kinds of possibilities. And that's how I see it now.
Thinking is overrated and often unnecessary.
That make more sense.
That's right. Yeah, quite a rabbit hole we went down. But
Sorry.
I'm sure. No, we'll go explore every one of these because I think where there's that, there's wisdom. I love that. Lesson number 2: you are one of one.
You are one of one. Yes. Yeah. Why is it important to understand that you are one of one as a statistic? When I found out the statistics of my condition, okay, there was a wide variety. With bowel cancer, there's a very good chance. If it's just bowel cancer, there's a very high chance that you'll recover completely. Yeah, if you take the initial steps, there is a great survival rate for that. That's my understanding. But when it comes to metastasized bowel cancer, which mine eventually turned out to be, there are some statistics online. I shouldn't really go to Dr. Google, but I did at the beginning, and there was some as low as 15% chance of survival. Definitely the doctors would say like the average lifespan was between 1.5 and 2 years. But the rates of even recovery from metastasized bowel cancer are higher now, according to my oncologist. The point was, when I first got it, I was obsessed with the statistics. What are my chances of dying? So it was a data analysis, right? I haven't got a chance in. This is.
Imagine being told. Yeah.
To their credit, like they didn't want you to obsess over the statistics, but if you ask them, they will tell you. But I was getting obsessed, and I was scared to ask them because I didn't want it confirmed. I was like hoping maybe I was reading something wrong, but in myself, I was feeling so terrible. Like for the longest time, I was just so sure. And so I kept looking at the statistics about it. And then I had this friend in London who was like this kind of tough guy. For some reason, I was drawn to him. I needed someone tough and he himself had healed himself of heart disease or something like 15 years earlier. So he was like unconventional. He had taken an unconventional approach. And I needed unconventional because the conventional approach wasn't showing me much hope.
Yeah, right.
I was just like, well, whatever else. But I didn't really believe that there was anything possible. But one thing he told me was that when I started going, I was so depressed and saying, I kept coming back to this thing. Yeah, but there's no chance. Look at the statistics here. And I kept talking about the statistics. And one day he just said on the phone, he said, can you stop talking about statistics? And he said, there's only one statistic that matters here right now. And that is that you are one of one and you are committed to healing yourself. So for me, that was such a huge shift. And you can apply this to different areas because getting a passive income, not many people have a kind of a good passive income that they can live on for 10 years without having to work unless they want to. But if you ask most people, is that possible? Most people don't really see a way of doing that, right? Because look, the statistics will show you that this is a very rare,
Exactly.
almost
4 out of 5 businesses fail, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a helpful attitude to take. It's a far more helpful attitude is, this is what I want. And I'm going to strive for the thing that I care for most. And let the world show me whether it's possible or not.
Yeah.
So I find that's a really great mindset to have.
Indeed.
Now you're invincible. Because even if what you're trying to achieve doesn't work or end up happening, you can still be satisfied that you went after the thing that you wanted, instead of just, oh, look at the statistics. Okay, that's statistics, fine.
I agree.
But there are reasons why those statistics are those statistics there. And they're statistics that reflect a certain pathway that people have followed. It may not necessarily be the pathway that you choose.
The only statistic that matters is you.
Is you.
So you're one of one. So
You are one of one. That's why it's such an important life lesson. You start to see yourself as one of one, and it changes your entire approach to life.
Indeed. Lesson number 3. Life is an opportunity to be blissful.
Life is an opportunity to be blissful, yes. So this is something that came up quite recently, because my partner was, I woke up one morning, my partner was like washing dishes. And, these days I'm feeling like I'm well. I don't really feel like I'm ill. I don't feel like I have cancer. I'm open to, I'm not complacent about it, but I don't see any reason to assume that I have. I don't feel like I have, and I take annual scan results, and they've been good for the last couple of years. But yeah, my partner was drying the dishes, and she just out of the blue asked me this question: what is life, Shani? What is life? And I was like, she doesn't normally ask those type of questions. So I was a bit surprised, like, why is she asking this? What is life? And I was going to make a joke about it. And then I saw she's very serious. No, like, what is life? I'm serious. So I began to think about it spontaneously right there. Like, what is life? What does that even mean? And I started to figure out what. And then from within me, the answer came: life is an opportunity to be blissful. That was the spontaneous thought that popped into my head, because it was just in that moment of silence, just feeling into that tangible feeling. Life is an opportunity to be blissful. And she challenged me and said, she was a bit skeptical with that answer. So she said, well, life isn't always blissful. And I said, I didn't say it was always blissful.
Yeah.
I said, it's always an opportunity to be blissful. And as I said that, the first thing was, wow, have I come this far? Because even before getting cancer, if you'd asked me what is life, I would have said it's a challenge. It's unfair sometimes, especially when I got cancer, it's unfair.
Yeah.
Even it's a tragedy. So you can have all these definitions. And here I was saying, no, it's an opportunity to be blissful. And then I thought, is that just because I feel I've gotten over the disease? Not necessarily. Whatever you're going through, it's still an opportunity to be blissful. It's just knowing and finding a way to be so. And that understanding takes you out of the victim mindset, which I think a lot of people are taught to have. And they build a story, often not through a fault of their own, but it's just a habit. And I was the same, of you're the victim of something. But as soon as you switch it around to saying it's an opportunity to be blissful, then whatever the story is, there's a door that can be opened. Okay, I'm going through a divorce. Still, life is an opportunity to be blissful. Okay, I'm sick. Still, life is an opportunity to be blissful. And so it's a great fundamental starting point. And it keeps you rooted in the present of saying, I'm not stuck in a story about the past.
Yeah.
I am noticing that whatever my circumstances are, there's an opportunity to be blissful. And I now am going to seek the way to do that.
Yeah. So I guess the way I relate to that is seeing the cup as half full rather than cup half empty.
Right.
It's a mindset shift to understand that even when things are bad, you can always choose to see the positive.
Correct.
In everything.
But there's another way of framing that as well, which I think is more inspiring. Is that we assume that it's just a way of seeing things without really touching into that it's true. Like when I say life is an opportunity to be blissful, that's true. That's actually true. It's not just a flip of a switch. But you're right, it is a flip of a switch. Yeah. It's not just a flip of the switch.
Yeah.
It's actually true, and embracing and recognizing the fullness of that truth actually can change your whole energetic makeup, because it's not just see it this way or see it that way. Feel into the truth of this.
Yep.
That changes your life. Now think of the power of the mind.
Mm.
And so we assume the negative is true.
Mm.
Okay, this is bad, but I can try and kind of frame it in a way, this is to your point earlier, in a way that kind of makes me able to tolerate it better. But really, it's a bad experience.
Yeah, but this is about redefining or even controlling how you feel about it.
For me, it's about seeing the truth of something.
Mm.
It's not like it's not just a brainwashing. It is a brainwashing.
You're not deluding yourself.
You're not deluding yourself and then having to
redefining yourself.
That's right, because you're seeing something that you didn't see before.
Mm.
But people assume if you say it's awesome, then you're lying.
Mm.
You're just like trying to positive thinking.
That's right.
And
But
you
that was
haven't
awesome.
seen the truth that it is awesome.
Yeah.
So this is why positive thinking often falls down, because deep down the person thinks it's just positive thinking. And therefore I don't really believe in what I'm saying. I'm just trying to convince myself that this is true.
There's definitely a lot of depth in that. Lesson number 4, speaking of it, live in the sunlight. Great weather today that we have here right here in Sydney.
What does it mean to you? What do you think?
I love summer. I love long days. I love sunlight. I love how it makes me feel. Yeah, I like the warmth. I like the fact that it doesn't get dark.
Yeah. To be honest, like you're a guy I feel lives in the sunlight. Okay. And what I mean by that is that you don't sit there with dark interpretations of everything, even though I'm not saying everything is rosy and there are no dark interpretations. In fact, you're aware we have some dark interpretations. We've talked about those, like about things that going on, which are sinister and stuff. It's not being in denial of those things, but living in the sunlight is actually just a choice that you make. So, you acknowledge that there are dangers, there are things happening, but I don't live in darkness. And I first heard this phrase, it's not my own, I heard this phrase, it's from Benjamin Franklin, actually, a long time ago, like decades ago, when I was in a situation where there was room for a lot of paranoia. This is especially good phrase for situations where you feel paranoid. It might be a workplace where you think everyone's against you, talking behind your back, family situation, gossip. And it may be that some people are. In my general experience, we tend to overthink things. But I remember at a time when I was facing that situation, I read on the internet that Benjamin Franklin, a quote where he said, don't anticipate trouble or worry about something that might not happen. Live in the sunlight. And this was a person, remember, who is in the depths of the American Revolution, plots, espionage, what people really are, backstabbing and secret agents and everything around you. And I thought to myself, if this guy can say this, it's such a strong attitude to have, a great mindset to have, is that live in the sunlight. I mean, I'm aware of danger. I'm not blind. I'm not stupid, but I still live in the sunlight. I don't assume that everything's going to go wrong. And for me, this was a really powerful understanding that has saved me from a lot of paranoia. So another thing I do is give people the benefit of the doubt until you can't. And you and I, we mentor young people, and I've seen this situation come up again and again where they be like, everyone's against me. These people are thinking this. And I say, I'm not saying you're not right. Maybe they are. There's an aspect where you might also be contributing to that sometimes by the paranoia itself.
If you only focus on that, then ultimately that becomes your reality, whether or not it is real or not. Another term I probably use to say live in the sunlight is to choose hope. Because of course we know bad things could happen. Of course there are evil in the world, but they're also good. But hope is something that gives you, I suppose, a reason to believe that the good will ultimately triumph over evil. And I think that's another way to look at it, knowing that, but you choose hope.
Yes. But as far as like mentoring young people is, I see that as my role when I'm talking to someone or coaching someone, whatever, is to bring them into the sunlight so that they can live there. Because rather than in this tunnel and this kind of like dark place. And I think that's one of the most valuable things you can teach people, see, just remind yourself of the sunlight. You're in the sunlight. You don't have to have all these dark visions.
Lesson number 5. It's an interesting segue. Stop trying to fix people.
Stop trying to fix people. Yeah, because for people in our kind of line, this is a really important distinction to make, which is because we care so much about the people that we deal with, whether it's family or just friends or just people who come to us for help. I used to have the idea that I'm fixing, I have to fix them. They got this problem, I have to fix them. But that opens the door to all kinds of vanity to come in. Because now you're the fixer, you're the savior of these people, right? And that can blind you to what really they need and what needs to be done. So there's a healthy distance between saying, I'm not here to fix you. The shift that I made was, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to just be a light to you if you wish to travel in this direction. Like you might think of a lighthouse in a storm. You're not going out there to rescue, because not everyone wants to be rescued. Some people want to have the adventure. For some people, the storm is necessary for some other purpose. So it's presumptive to go and try and help everybody. And then when it came to family, I was very guilty of this with my family, constantly trying to fix them. And when they would respond in this negative way to my fixing, because I think I'm coming from helping
Good
them.
place.
Yeah. And I couldn't understand it. And then, one of my mentors said, don't try to fix people. That is your ego. How do you know what they're supposed to experience?
Yeah.
So it's very, then when I stopped trying to do that, and I still fall into it now and again, but when I stopped trying to do that with my mom or other people in my life, it's actually a great relief for you and them.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, I don't need to fix you. So what I find more useful is to show people how to be free in themselves and how to overcome the limitations in their own life. Then you become an inspiration to them and they go, tell me how that's done. And those people who are coming to you to learn that are the ones who truly want to know. How many times have you sat there with somebody like you getting all frustrated because they're not listening, they're not learning what you think they need to learn. But again, look at the vanity of that. Why are we getting uptight? Maybe they don't want to. Maybe it's not the time. And therefore you just be a light. I found it much more useful and kinder, because then you just allow your generosity to flow as needed without so, in a lot of the things I do now, I try to distinguish between this kind of thinking, what I refer to as the kind of the ego mind identity, which is this kind of vain thing that's motivated by all these kind of lower purposes, including like trying to fix people. I now put that into that bucket. Oh yeah. So I'm not going to try and fix people, and I'm not going to try and see myself as a savior. I'm just going to learn to be free myself and delete all these kind of programs that are interfering with my happiness. And then if other people like what they see, then maybe
choose
they'll
to
ask
follow
me.
you. And I think there's a whole lot of wisdom in that, because I see a whole lot of people out there, and I think vanity is the right word. They seem to have this moral vanity, trying to fix the world as a validation to themselves more than anything else. And you almost have pace to see them do that, because you can see that this is motivated out of all the wrong things. And ultimately, the results are nothing short of disastrous. I'm sure there are plenty of examples you can see.
Oh, myself included. In my younger days, I was all about that. Now I look back and it's distasteful to me. Like I can see the vanity in it now.
But it takes humility. It takes introspection. It takes wisdom to be able to recognize that in yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Because
and certainly, I don't think I think I'm not immune to that either. And it's plenty of people have the best of intentions, but at the same time, if you can't let go of your ego self, you're not going to have the impact that you desire. All right, that's great segue. Lesson number 6: don't try to squeeze your life into roles. The very act of trying to play these roles will take you away from actually performing these roles. If you try to be a good father, actually, by trying to be that good father, you're saying it's going to take you away from being a good father.
It can, right? If it becomes a concept and an ideal, see, it's a very difficult line to walk, because I'm not saying that ideals are useless. And like I said, they can become a good as a turning point for someone to go from being negligent and completely deadbeat to going, okay, I have some ideals. But I'm saying you can go higher than that in my understanding.
But it's a pursuit of that higher, yeah. So by making your motivation more pure, you would attain a better result.
It becomes at some point a limitation because there's still vanity in it. So it's better than being a deadbeat, as you might say. But there comes a point where it starts to become a limitation to the outflow of your love because you're trying to squeeze this love now through a toothpaste tube of a roll.
Yeah.
And I'm saying in my life, and I do this myself because I'm still identifying with certain roles, but I'm less. And every time I remove myself from those identifications, I find I'm more loving because I'm not now trying to perform.
Yeah.
I'm just, okay, I'm just having a loving presence. So that's the kind of way that I might prefer to look at it. Let's say I'm talking to my mom and I'm going, and I still get into arguments because I keep falling into these roles. These are long-time habits. But I try to keep being mindful and remind myself, oh, wait a minute. Don't have to be her son in a kind of formal sense. Just be a loving presence. And when I take that approach with people in my life, and I fail a lot, please don't get me wrong, I'm not a saint.
We're all work in progress.
Yeah, but I'm getting better at it, which is that I now just say, just remind myself, just be a loving presence to this person. And then whatever needs to be said is said without that filter of vanity that says, I'm trying to be a good person.
So another way I could interpret that, and it just sort of reminds me of the Matrix where, Morpheus says, stop trying to hit me and hit me. So it's saying, stop trying to be a father and be a father.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
So once you take away that judgment, pretension, that vanity, that the sense of self, then you actually perform better at what you intend to do in the first place.
And look at what lies behind this idea is the idea that you're not broken in that sense. We all got things that we can improve about, but you don't have to sink into this self-judgmental, remorseful type of existence while being humble enough to say, okay, I could have done that better. And then I learn from that and I try and do things differently the next time. We're not in denial that you do things which are not great, right? But it's just a different frame which allows you to keep being loving.
It's not like feeling guilty. You're not being the best version of yourself either. And sometimes, and that comes at the expense.
Yeah.
So, 100%. Now, I feel like we've already covered this lesson. Lesson number 7, don't trust your doubts over your tangible feelings.
Yes, we have. Yeah, I think we covered that in depth. So, just a brief reinforcement of that. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of scope for exploring this, experimenting with that, going deeper into what is the tangible feelings that you have. What are they? What are they telling you? And using that as a kind of navigation system. Maybe if it feels too much to just trust it, it might be like swimming or riding a bike, where you go, okay, let me just try it a little bit and see what happens. And you go, oh, I can ride, oh, I can swim. It's fine. And very rarely will people just jump in and say, I have faith in the intuitive mind.
I've got a question for you, though, to dig a little bit deeper in that. What's the difference between intuition and your feelings?
Yeah, so I was touched on this a little bit before, is that for me, I'm using it in a way that intuition and feelings are closer to what I mean, tangible feeling, tangible knowing. I'll give you an example of this intuitive ability. We do trust it under certain circumstances. If someone looks shifty and you start moving away and then they start freaking out later and you go, okay. Or my female friends have told me a lot that, if you're in a bar and you're getting chatted up by someone, you're not necessarily just listening and thinking about what they're saying. You're also sensing their vibe because there could be danger involved. And there you're like 100% trusting your vibe. So we do this.
You can almost call intuition a bit of a sixth sense, can't you?
You can.
Yeah.
You can.
You know it's there, and it's worked for you. It's obviously it's something we developed over millions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
You genuinely have a good idea or good vibe to whether someone means you harm or not.
Yeah.
But it's learning to trust that.
And it's harder because we're given this framework that it's outside the realm of rationality. And we put down anything that's not in the realm of rationality. And we say, because it's not, there's no kind of reason. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. Now, the difficulty is that in some cases, things which feel a certain way might not be accurate.
Mm.
That's how you get the scientific mindset, is like saying, well, you can't just trust everything. But I'm distinguishing between emotion and tangible, pure knowing is the thing that I would say is worth exploring, at least.
Definitely. All right, moving on. Lesson number 8, focus on expressing rather than acquiring. What do you mean by that?
So it feeds back into this idea that there's a part of you that is almost, I don't like to use the word too often, but programmed in the sense with desires, demands, expectations of roles and everything. And I put all that now into this kind of category of the ego mind identity. If you want to go further, some people refer to this as like the matrix, really.
Yeah.
This kind of programmed reality that we're trained to have, right? So that part of your mind, which is programmed, let's say, is very much focused on getting things. And that's why like status, objects, and that's what we refer to as the sort of the rat race.
Oh, yeah.
To me now, that's all like the lower consciousness or the matrix, whatever you want to call it, right? When we follow that part of ourselves, we are interested in getting things, controlling others, right? Yeah. And our life becomes, you can almost feel the energetic quality of those things. And that's where we're manipulated into competing with others, being better, having higher status. That's when you're completely driven. And we know some people who are completely driven by that, very sensitive to, oh, that person's got a new car or a new watch or whatever. I need to get that too. We know that aspect of us and we've been there. We're still susceptible to that. I distinguish the other side of us, let's call it the higher consciousness side of us. Everything here is actually really related. That tends to, for me now, that tends to be something that comes from wanting to express something, not to get something.
Okay.
Right? So what I found really powerful with this is when I talk to people and say, you are assuming that you need to get all these things because you are unfulfilled. So you have bought into the idea that you're unfulfilled, and now you're vulnerable to the behavior that says, I must now seek fulfillment from all these things outside of me that other people are telling me I need in order to be fulfilled. I need to get a house, I need to get a wife, I need to get this, I need to get that, money and status. And now you're now fully in that world. Now, that's how it plays out when you feel that you are unfulfilled. Or you've bought into the belief, that you're unfulfilled. So sometimes what I get people to consider is, what if you are fulfilled, right? What if you are fulfilled and you just want to express your fulfillment by getting those things?
Oh, yeah.
That's a huge reframe. And like I said, with all these other things, what if that was true? What if you only thought that you were unfulfilled and now you've been taken down this path of wanting to control, acquire, of those things. And I get you to just play around with that in your life and say, wait, what if you wanted a successful business? You're an entrepreneur. You want to make a successful business. You go to any entrepreneur who's trying to do it. I'm so stressed. Oh, it's not succeeding.
Have to do
it
this.
have to do this. It's all going wrong. It's not failing.
There's freedom, isn't it?
Now, when I talk to entrepreneurs, I'll try to coach them sometimes on this stuff. So I would say, so you're seeking happiness like we all are, right? But for you, you believe that in order to be happy, you need to be successful because that's what you're lacking. So you'll be happy once you achieve the success that you're looking for your business, right? Yeah. So then you dig a little deeper. Yeah, of course. Of course. What else is?
Of course, yeah.
So so then, okay. So do you believe that happiness needs to be earned then by success? You have to earn your happiness. You don't have a right to that. You can only be happy once you're successful. And I go, never really looked at it like that. So you believe that you can't just have happiness, you have to earn it. I guess so. But what do you think of that idea? Was that your idea? Did you come up with that? You know what? One day I woke up and said, you know what? Happiness should be earned. You can't just have it. And they go, and I didn't come up with that. I don't know where it came from. So, okay, now that it's conscious, do you agree to this belief that happiness must be earned? Otherwise you have no right to it. In other words, somewhere along the line, we get turned into these slaves, right? Where it's going, you have to now earn your happiness because you don't have a right to it and you don't have it already. Because look at that person, they've got this, they've got that. And that's what I mean by this life lesson is that the ones that make you want to acquire and control the desires, those are coming from the lower consciousness. The other side of your consciousness, the higher conscious part is going, I just want to express myself. So you could end up as an entrepreneur doing exactly the same thing, trying to have a successful business, but that's because that's what you wish to experience. And that's how you choose to express your fulfillment and your happiness.
Yeah, through having a successful...
Yeah, because and now you're not torn up because you didn't get it. Yeah, I just wanted to experience.
That's right.
So I say the higher self wants to explore, experience, express, and enjoy.
Yep. And the lack of which is not going to tear you up.
The lack of which is not going to tear you up. So why are you assuming that you're not happy to begin with? See, when you were a child, you were running around happily expressing your desires.
That's right.
Then
somewhere down the line,
I don't know where, somewhere down the line, someone or something happens and your happiness is taken outside from inside, put outside and ahead of you. And now you got to run towards it. Now we say you don't have it. Now you agree to that idea. I don't have it. And now you have to earn it. And then you have to run towards it and keep chasing. And now you have to prove that you deserve it by being successful, by having a good relationship, by having more money than others, or being as wealthy as others, or whatever it is. So learning to distinguish between the quality of these things I say the real you is the one that simply wants to express. That's the one that got tested.
I think we have a way of picking up that signal from people as well, like the people who's already fulfilled. They may not have the status or the money or anything like that, but you feel like they have. And I think we become slaves if we are in that mindset where we're trying to acquire.
Yeah.
I think once you realize that when you're in your word expressing, when you're in that mindset, then you're the other way around. You're no longer under the control of people.
Exactly. And this is probably one of the most important things I'll say, which is that for me, the problem that most people are facing and that I faced was being out of alignment with yourself. So what all this does is all these ideas that are pumped into you put you out of alignment with yourself. And it's so related to the illnesses that we get, because once you are out of alignment and no longer expressing the things that you truly want to express, but now you're trying to control and acquire and all this because that's how you've been programmed to be, suddenly now you start to experience disharmony within yourself. So when I coach people, it's about using my intuition now to guide people back into alignment with who they truly are, what they truly seek to express. And you use your intuition to get back in touch with that, not your thinking. See how the whole thing is connected. This is now getting back to who you truly are, what you truly want to express, the love often that you truly want to express in your life. And now it's not filtered through all this other stuff of roles and ideals and all this kind of stuff, but just rediscovering who you are and then saying, I'm a being that seeks to and wishes to express itself moment to moment in the way it chooses. We don't have to assume that's going to be anything bad, because generally you are love and loving. So you don't need to worry that you're going to suddenly just start doing all this crazy stuff. I don't think so anyway. And now we're moving from a paradigm shift from acquiring and controlling, because that's the energetic quality of the ego mind, to expressing, exploring, experiencing. So you start life from that perspective is, what do I want to explore? What do I want to experience? What do I want to express? And what do I want to enjoy? And when you approach life like that, it starts to take on a different meaning to you. Now you don't have to worry about the rejection that you got from this because it means you're worthless or any of those types of things.
Yeah, such a big mindset shift, and yet it's so interesting that we start out life that way, and somewhere down the line we all get lost. Yeah, it actually reminds me of a movie speech by Sylvester Stallone. I think it's a one about he was talking to his son when he was born. You believed in yourself, and somewhere down the line you let other people tell you that you're worthless.
Exactly.
Right. Lesson number 9, and I think we covered a bit of this, but false hope is better than false hopelessness.
So coming back to what you were talking about before, I agree. We tend to get seduced by this idea that we shouldn't give false hope to people. And I agree, we shouldn't give false hope to people. But what I think we end up doing is giving false hopelessness to people. And it happened in the case of my own illness, where, I found that at the beginning, I didn't want to give myself false hope. So what I tried to do is assume that things would go wrong, so that if you assume the worst, it's kind of like a superstition. If you assume the worst, then you'll be pleasantly surprised if you survive. So you're looking for that satisfaction. So you'll spend your whole life being absolutely expecting the worst, just for that little pleasure at the end, say, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised. On the converse side, if you assume that like it's a hopeless situation, you're going to get the pleasant surprise. But if you assume that that you're going to survive, then you fear the embarrassment, like I was wrong, right? And that's also an ego mind thing. I'm trying to avoid the embarrassment. See, because how stupid will I look? I said I was going to live, I was fine, and then I died. Oh, how embarrassing. And that's how the way the ego mind operates, right? It's that pernicious. It's that, so you got to be careful of this thing. Whereas when you really look at it, you say, I'll be better off thinking I'm going to get better anyway, because the quality of my life will be better. Let's just assume I'm going to do well, right? Yeah. Oh no, false hope. No, let's assume I'm going to do well. And then if I don't, then at least I lived a great life. Not only that, I'll have a positive placebo effect of assuming I'm going to get well, because the placebo effect is real as well, rather than a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. So all around, you're better off like having false hope than having false hopelessness. Yeah. So that's why I say I put it that way. It's better to have false hope than to have false hopelessness.
I agree. And look, maybe a controversial opinion, but Dr. Charlie Teo is a brain surgeon, but he's famous for saying that there's no such thing as false hope. And yes, he's not going to be able to save the patients in 100% of the cases. Yeah. But he doesn't believe in the harm of giving a go and giving people hope. And I know it might be controversial in some circumstances, but I can see the utility in that.
Absolutely. And to put it, for me, it's a starting point, because even having false hope, having hope is the beginning of having commitment and intention. Because if you don't have any hope, if you have false hopelessness, you're not going to get
fulfilling prophecy.
Right, because you're not going to get to a position of even having an intention.
That's right.
So that's why, again, it goes back to this idea of statistics. Oh, you've hardly got any hope. These are the statistics against you. All of that feeds into this whole negative self-fulfilling prophecy, in which, so hope for me is a starting point for intention and commitment.
Yep.
And now you say, whatever happens, but this is my intention and I'm going to strive for it.
Indeed.
And let the world decide whether it works, rather than my own thing.
That's right. Right. Last lesson. Follow your excitement.
Yeah. So this one is weird, because I start on my Instagram. It's like I was listening to all this kind of more spiritual stuff, and then occasionally you get stuff which is really extreme, or would have been really extreme for me. And one of the people I listen to or get lots of stuff sent from is this guy who claims to be channeling an alien. Name is Bashar. Now, before I would not even have listened, and I claim no knowledge of whether he's actually doing this or not. I have no idea. I just look at whether what's being said is wise or useful.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas he bangs on about as he's channeling this this alien, supposedly, is that follow your true excitement. Is a really good navigation system.
Okay. As opposed to following your passion?
I think it's the same thing. But it's a little bit more tangible, I think, because it's like a moment-to-moment feeling. Passion, we tend to assume it's some kind of goal, some kind of lofty goal.
Yep.
And he's talking really literally moment to moment. Now, where I use that tool is like saying a navigation system for saying, he would say, even if do you want to eat this or do you want to eat that? Which one is more exciting to you? Okay, now I choose this. Okay, now you're using that as a tool rather than which one should I have, this, and all this other kind of thinking around this. Which one excites me? Okay, I'll take this. As you do that, it opens up the next step in the process, and it starts over time, it creates a path for you. Now, don't confuse excitement with being something that's tawdry or just not, because you could be excited about meditating. You could be excited about communion with God. You could be excited about enlightenment. And some of your initial excitements might lead you to those things.
Mm.
But the pathway of excitement, and again, I'm not advocating this because some people resist that, saying, okay, if you do that, then it's going to lead to all this disaster and you're just going to be hedonistic. And it's not necessarily that, right?
Mm.
But for my own life, I feel that you can live in a very relaxed and happy way when you seek to follow what excites you. So even like meditate, sometimes that's what excites me, is to meditate. Because even, and people have this spiritual fiction that like, oh, desire, you got to eliminate desire, and that turns into another self-judgmental mess. Even the Buddha desired to be enlightened, otherwise he wouldn't have started the path. So all desire can't be that.
Was he excited about enlightenment?
Oh, I'm sure he was. Like I'm sure he was. But yeah, I wasn't there at the time. But I think excitement can open up a pathway. So it's one tool to try to see where it gets you, without assuming that excitement is always about something that's not good.
But I mean, following excitement could be whatever gives you energy. Some excitement allows you to have energy to pursue whatever it is.
Right.
And that could be a way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
But is it, I challenge you that is a good strategy in all cases. It sounds like it might be a good strategy to follow your excitement if you're already of the higher being, if you're already at that level of consciousness. But what if you're not ready? What if you're still one of these that still haven't seen through, still in that mindset of acquiring whatever excites you? It could be all the wrong things.
And I think that's the key distinction, right? Yes, that's exactly what I'd say. If you're still in that ego mindset of acquiring, controlling, then your desires are going to be of that nature, right? And they could be aggressive, they could be malicious even. So it's all part of a shift. Like I said, that can become the part of a journey. But tapping into, yes, we were talking about people who have developed themselves to a certain extent where they go, my excitement, in my case, my excitement leads me to greater and greater compassion. That's its natural flow. As I begin to express myself more and more fully and freely,
That's right.
I have more love for others.
Others, yes.
And want them to express themselves fully and freely. And that full of free self-expression is never about controlling or acquiring or using or exploiting. Yeah.
All right. And as we do with all our guests at 10 Lessons, we like to throw a bit of a curveball. A question that we ask them is, what have you unlearned? I think we might have covered some of this. Something that you believe to be ironclad truth when you're starting out in life, and then later learned through experience that it wasn't the case at all. Just reflecting on your cancer journey, I'm sure there's a few lessons unlearned in that regard.
Yeah, it's not one I like to talk about much, but it's that I think having too much faith in like expert opinion, which is not to say you shouldn't consult.
Yep.
I have to be very careful how I say this because I don't want it to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, like I think if you're diagnosed with something, you must have the guidance of a trained professional and run your ideas past them every step of the way. That's what I did.
Yeah.
However, there is a great capacity for us to know ourselves. It's very related to what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes there were times when I did not follow the recommended treatment because I felt intuitively, I had developed my sense of intuition strong enough to be able to do this, so I wouldn't recommend it for anybody, particularly if they're not fully developed in this way, where I could confidently say, no, actually, no, chemo's not going to work for me in that case because I don't see that it would help me. My body could get weaker. So in that particular instance, I might choose not to do a particular treatment, whatever it was, a surgery or whatever. As, again, it's a journey of like, so just trusting everything, and there's not a cookie cutter approach to health.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I had to unlearn. I thought that you just follow the system, follow the protocols, which in some cases that may be the best thing.
So you're right in some respect. If we take a zoom out in civilization, what we know today, and this is the history of 2024, if we take a zoom out, you realize that, and all we need to do is look back 1,000 years. Whatever the biggest, I suppose, the best experts in the year 1000 versus the year 2000, you can see how little And even the best doctors in the year 1000 AD knew about medicine as they do today. And so if we take a zoom out and say, okay, what about us now in 2024 compared to the year 3000 AD, how little we knew about the human condition. And then there's a sense of humility in understanding the limitations of what these experts would possibly know.
Yeah, and look, there is a scientific aspect to it where you can say things evolve, understanding evolves. There's also a business aspect to it that we can't deny. There is that too. I don't want to overplay that or underplay that, but one has to be recognized that medicine is also a business.
And could be corrupted.
Like any.
I think in a way to look at it is that knowing the limitations of what the experts could possibly know, but also being aware of the limitations of their integrity too, in that we're all human.
We're all human. And also you've got sometimes in every society and in every age, there are cultural and other influences as well that might get you, for example, the difference between the whole model of acupuncture or Ayurvedic medicine is based on different assumptions and different ways of dealing with the world, like not at the sort of subatomic molecular level. That's one way that sort of one type of science went. Other types of sciences went a different way, where it was looking at the kind of the whole person, the organic nature of the being. And solutions then become connected to your basic paradigm. And then if that paradigm exists for a long time, then you might just end up looking further and further at going deeper and deeper into the cell, for example, and trying to find solutions at the cellular level rather than at the mind, body, spirit level. And I must say, in my own healing journey, I found the mind, body, spirit paradigm was the thing that I talk about in my memoir, is basically, this was like alongside whatever conventional treatments I had, I figured there was a common sense approach that I could have to my healing. The physical, the body side, which I got rid of processed food, I detoxed, I got rid of all the possible physical causes to try and uninstall the cancer, if you like. So I could treat it, but
stop poisoning yourself is a good start.
So you stop poisoning it through your body. I was a smoker. Stopped smoking. So I changed my body chemistry to support me in my healing. Detox, got rid of any poisons that were stuck in my body. Second, the mind. Toxicity can be created from the mind as well. Unprocessed trauma. And if you have buried emotions, I did a lot of work around just releasing things and therapies, even neuro-emotional technique, tapping, all kinds of everything I could do, because I didn't want emotional toxicity to be generating. I didn't know where it was coming from, so I wanted to remove all sources. And finally, the spirit side, which is what we've been touching on, which is getting back into alignment with who you truly are. So there's no disharmony between who you are and what you've been programmed to be. And once you find all that harmony, then you've eliminated three huge, like the three planes of your existence: body, mind, spirit. So why wouldn't you do that as a cancer patient? It's common sense that alongside any treatments you have, you remove or uninstall it as best you can. And that's been my approach. And I think that's the thing that I wanted to share most.
Wow, I appreciate that. So even the lessons unlearned, we've to delve into quite a bit of depth. So really appreciate your time. We will finish on that note. A big thank you to our special guest, Shani Raja, for sharing your incredible journey, insights, and lessons. Thank you as well to our amazing team, Cody Como, our episode editor, Yi Wang, who manages all our marketing and social media, and our producer, as always, Robert Hosry. This podcast is supported by the Professional Development Forum and listeners like you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's lessons. Drop us a line at podcast@10lessonslearned.com. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson that could change your life. Thanks for tuning in to 10 Lessons Learned, where we're making the world a little wiser, lesson by lesson.